Janet, how are you?
Hi, Vincent. I'm good. How are you?
Doing good. Did you have a question to ask or a story to tell?
I guess a little bit of both, mostly a question and maybe a little bit of advice. I'm sure this is probably quite common, but when you have an angry ex-spouse or a spiteful family member, sometimes they can use the Department of Children and Family Services, which is intended to protect children as it should be. They may use it to weaponize and make continual false claims against you or your family as a form of malicious, spiteful vengeance kind of thing. My question to you is more you with your experience when these accusations are being made by the same person over and over, throughout the span of time. What is it? What is the protocol by the department? Because I'm sure this is probably something that happens to probably just more than me. What do they look at? Do they look at it differently? Is there a limit to how many times the same person can make these unfounded allegations against someone? And what is your best advice for someone who's going through this?
Okay, so I've heard that there are limits and I've heard that there aren't limits. So I'm not really sure. And it really depends upon the social worker that's assigned to the case. Some social workers use common sense. Some, don't use common sense. And, was involved in a case not too long ago where two social workers had come out and done an investigation, decided nothing was going on, that the allegations were unfounded, and then the caller makes another call, a new social worker is assigned, and that social worker ends up filing a juvenile dependency case. So it just depends on the social worker. If I were you, I would probably not meet with the social workers. I'd have an attorney try to meet with the social workers. I was reading something the other day about memory, especially memory of witnesses. And generally speaking, witnesses' memories change frequently. And sometimes they're, large details or sometimes they're small details. So if somebody asks you 5 times what happened when you saw this car accident, it's likely that you're going to tell 4 or 5 different versions. Now, that doesn't mean that you're lying. It's just that your memory memory is not what people think it is. It's not a perfect recordation of an event that they witnessed or they saw or they heard. So if you get an attorney that will interact with the social worker instead of you don't have to have that weakness of telling different, variations of stories of what happened and then them thinking that you're lying and then, you must be hiding something when you're not. So that's what I would suggest. I would suggest not to have any contact with the social worker and have your attorney interact with your social worker because they can never get a warrant to make you talk to them. They can get a warrant for a lot of things. They can get a warrant to come see your house. They can get a warrant to come talk to your children. They can get a warrant to take your children out of your custody. But they can never get a warrant to make you talk to them. And it's when you talk to them, is when you give them evidence unwittingly where they're trying to build a case against you.
Is there any protection for families or parents, mothers, fathers who are going through this where, is someone able to just endlessly continue to make allegations and to continue to make DCFS allegations over and over without any sense of limit or...
Right. Well, that's one of the things I first mentioned. I don't know. The policy, I'm not sure the department has a policy because I've heard workers say that they have to investigate every time that there's an allegation. Yeah, and then I've heard workers say, well, this has been investigated 5 times. We're not going to do it again. It's obvious that somebody's trying to weaponize the department against you to get back at you. And that happens. It happens frequently. I mean, you'd be surprised how many people will call the social worker and make a report that's either false or mostly false. It happens frequently.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Janet, for listening and asking that question. Keep listening in the future.
Thank you.